Jackson Whitaker, and today I'm at the Bromer Gallery in Boston, Massachusetts, for an artist's reflection on African American life, culture, and trials. It was my goal to bring together a series of paintings to express different aspects of the African American's life and hopefully educate and allow us all to be enlightened with art to help us grow and appreciate our culture, the American culture. This show is made possible by the Bromer Gallery team. Works from inputs from my husband Nathaniel and my son Joshua, Michael Koch, and so many other people that have given comments to strengthening this work. I do not do my work in a bubble. I do get input. Sometimes I want it and sometimes I don't. But most of the time it has been perfect in making my work what I want it to be. Something that you will enjoy and grow and become a part of you to strengthen not only you, but those around you and hopefully our communities. Ashes to Ashes was the first ever funeral service held in this country for African Americans who have been lynched. I produced that service, and from that service a series of things have occurred. Among them is a film called Ashes to Ashes. And also I did a series of etchings that are now in the Library of Congress, centered on Ashes to Ashes. As stated, this was a funeral service for people that had been lynched. So this etchings include 6 of the individuals who were presented in this service. And they vary from farmers, pregnant women, business people, and during the service, people started standing and expressing to the audience what had happened to them. This is, for me, not just African American history, but American history. How over 4,000 individuals that documented lynching that occurred here. And my goal was that we could not bring them back, but I felt that we should remember them. We cannot bring them back, but we can give them a prayer. And so that was the purpose of the funeral service held in Springfield, Massachusetts, April 2016. So these etchings, this was the top person was a business person who was a friend of Ida B. Wells, who had started a business, and that business competed with a white farm business owner who was upset about that and resulted in the death of this individual and his 2 partners. A very famous lynching was the young lady that was pregnant, and she challenged the Klan because they had lynched her husband. As a Southerner, I know that for her to have done that was suicidal. You do not confront the Klan, which she did. 1, she's a very strong woman. 2, she knew she was going to die. You don't confront the Klan and live to tell someone. So it was a horrible death. Her case was brought to Congress because it was such horrendous what they did to her as a pregnant woman. And they went to Congress, the NAACP went to Congress to ask them to stop the lynching. And as of today, there is no law against lynching in America. Here is what we call a broadside. And it shows the core of a tree that had no choice to be a part of lynchings. And when you come, you'll see the name of over 4,000 people that was lynched. This broadside comes across as powerful, and the fact that a tree has no choice but to be a part of something so hideous, something so powerful, and something so sad. This is one of the books that's book of etchings that's in the Library of Congress. And the part of this one to me is that the deluxe edition has work by a close friend called, his name was Winfred Rembert. He's a famous artist he did work on leather, and Winfred passed this March, but he was instrumental in doing works on leather just for Ashes to Ashes book of etchings that's in the Library of Congress. And he usually do huge pieces, but for once Winfred did small pieces that you can say smaller than your cell phone. And in talking with Winfred about doing this, Winfred was determined to do 2 pieces, and I said, I don't need 2 pieces, Winfred. All I want is 1. But as you see, Winfred ran out. He won. I did not. And it's a good thing, because I get his lettering with letters on each one. He put his soul in that. And this concentrated on lynching. Winfred Rembert was an artist, but he was a survivor of lynching. So these are special because my friend Winfred did pieces for me, and he's a phenomenal artist. And for him to do this for me, and I know it's tough for him to continue to do pieces of lynching because that happened to him, but he was kind enough to do it for me, and he did it so that others would have pieces of his work and to remember people who were lynched. I would like to continue talking about etching some. I've only been really etching. I learned how to etch early 2000 with a famous artist by the name of Leonard Baskin. And Michael, who I'm always talking about, was his printer when he was at Hampshire College. But in 2016, Michael recommended that I do the Ashes to Ashes. But I had been dabbling in a little etching on my own and printing. And these are some of my earliest pieces. As I said, that the etching is usually done on copper, and then you carve into the copper, and then you put in the acid for a period of time, and the skilled people know how to regulate that so they can get certain ideas or expressions with the acid. I never got that good, but I have hopes for the future. So I did 2, the first relief, and this is one that I printed. As you notice, there's only 2 colors here, 3, because I'm not like Michael. I can't do a series. I'm so happy that I could get it in line, because you have to print this off this plate and make sure that it stays within this set line. I find that I love doing designs, and this allowed me to do that. I love the expression from this individual, and I wanted it to be powerful, I wanted to be calming, and I wanted to be something that you would enjoy. Now we are continuing our exposure to etching. I had done etchings early 2000 with Leonard Baskin, but I slacked off a little bit, and I heard there was a class, and I decided to take this class to refresh myself and see if I could make some, something that looked feasible. And I did this piece, and I loved it because of the contrast that I could possibly make between dark and light shading, which I think is very important to get expression in anything you do. And it's tough sometimes to do it in black and white. Ansel Adams said when you use black and white photography, it's hard to cover up stuff. And I find that etching can be hard to cover it up. But you put a little splash of paint, people look at the paint, they don't look at the fine stuff. So when I did this piece, it had the difference, the variation in shading, which I thought was something that I needed to learn to do. And when I did it, I sort of was pleased with it, and I put it on Facebook. And someone, in less than, it wasn't up a minute, someone told me who it was, that it was Gordon Parks, who was he was the first African American to do photography for the Bromer magazine. He did movies. He was an amazing man. And to be able to capture him in an etching made me feel a little good. This is the last of the two etchings that I'm going to talk about today. And the top one is Miss Caldonia. Miss Cal lived next to us when I was growing up. She was sort of soft-spoken and always such a giver. But she would often come to the house when she didn't have some sugar or some salt or whatever. And I always see her coming with a jar in her hand and say, "Todd, do you have any sugar or flour?" And they always exchange stuff. This lady was such an amazing lady, and her sister, Miss Lucinda, was the grandmother. This is the grand aunt of Warnock, who's a senator from Georgia. So this is his aunt that I did years ago, and his grandmother lived around the corner from me. But both of them were amazing women. The last of the etchings is my attempt to do Toni Morrison. And she wrote Beloved, and that's been in the news a lot recently. But I think she's a powerful writer, and the chance to sketch this and to show it to her about 4 or 5 years ago was an honor. So I tried to pick up the strength that she had. It was an attempt, and the title for it is Chloe, because that's her real name. Later on, I think her name is Antoinette Chloe, but her family called her Chloe. So that's the title of this piece. So it's an etching of the writer and Pulitzer Prize winner, Toni Morrison, who wrote Beloved. So now we've left etchings, and we're going to some sketching that I think I remember doing my first sketch in the 7th grade. I was in a situation where I didn't like the teacher, so I started sketching him. I think I did it so I wouldn't go mad in that room, and it made me focus on something. So I always found some peace and joy from sketching. And most of the time when you do an etching, for me, I sketch it first and get all the criticism from my buddy Michael, and then I etch it. And then even with etchings, you have certain takes. You have the artist proofs and first take, second take. Sometimes it's going to take, I think, too long. So these are 4 that I did within the last year, and they're different, but I think that trying to capture a mood in sketching sometimes can be difficult. Sometimes less is more. And like this, there isn't a lot going on, but you get a sense of who she is, that this woman has style and felt good about herself. This one is a little girl with plaits. They're all individual, have some movement, and this little girl who's so devilish, but I wanted to concentrate on the plaiting. Something that people don't register, but if you're in the South, if you say plaiting, they know what you're talking about. And I always loved for my mother to plait my hair. She at times, now I know she was braiding. She would part my hair down the center and 2 big rows of braids down that I know is braid. I didn't like that. I want her to sit down, put between her legs, and individually do this. And when she didn't do that, I was not happy. And you could tell I was squirming that I didn't want her to do that. I wanted her to part my hair and plait each individual piece, because that's more time that I had with her that she did that. So I love for her to plait my hair. This, I love how she's using her hand. That's one area I felt very weak in, working with hands. And this allowed me to use her hand, and you get the impression that she's sort of laid back, but she's classy. And that facial expression, the the fullness of her lips, the darkness of her hair. Again, the shading, which something I constantly work on is shading. And that dark, all different kinds. And I love doing all this fine stuff. And it's just for some reason, I don't know, it's my idea of focusing. The thing that I did in 7th grade, doing extra to keep me focused, and it's very common for me. But to go repetition, and I think that lady has a little style. The face, trying to get the mood that she's in a sketch. As again, is something I work on because it's important that you get an idea that the feeling that she has, that she's portraying there. Again, the shading, something that I constantly, think is important because I'm trying to give more, less. There isn't a lot going on here, but hopefully you look at her, you get a feeling about her. And I don't have to clutter it with a lot for you to come away with a feeling of who she is and what she's up to. Now I want to take you on a journey, a short one, about works that I have done in the past. And for years, I love to apply different things to the canvas. My husband kept asking me, why do you have to hang stuff off of a canvas? I don't know, I just love, first I thought I was doing what they call a collage, but I had never been trained in art, so what I was doing was really not a collage. I don't know what it was. I was just hanging stuff off a canvas, and I said, I did a collage, and I found out, I don't think so. But nevertheless, I depicted in this, and several of those pieces center around the South, the church, which is very prominent in the South, and these ladies are going to church. And important in the Black community is the hat. They love the hat. And my mother-in-law, who's I use for this painting, loves hats. And the thing with hats, I learned recently, there was something called the Tignon, Tignon law in Louisiana, about the 1800s or something. And African American women was told they had to wear a scarf cover up their hair, on their head, and for something that they felt they was competing with white women. But the Black women took it to another level. They took those scarves and wove it around their head and had things hanging off it. So it didn't faze them, it just made them become creative. And they think that is the forerunner of Black women with hats. It went from all these things hanging off their turbans or whatever, the scarf they had on their head, to what we call now the Black woman crown is with her hats. And the thing with the church, it was one place where Blacks could go and Black women could go and get respect as being women. They were called Miss Lucinda, Miss Jackson. They put a handle on their name, not just calling them Lucy, May. They went to church, and that was important. That they went into an environment they could dress fancy, and people looked at them and they felt like they were the people they are, that they were somebody. So the church has always been, and it was a place where Blacks could go and cry and release some of the pain that they had endured during the week. This was a haven for them. Permanent part, they could go and get some relief from the trials that they were undergoing. This is a continuation of my talk about hats and how important and beloved they are in the Black community, especially the Black church. And this one, the power is that hat. And for her, she knows she got this. That the eyes pointing says, I am the showpiece.
and she is. So, as I said, black community, culture, and hats. Very important. They call it, some people refer to it as the crown. This is her crown, and she wears it well. So now I just want to talk a bit about some other pieces that may, I think, show a little window into African American culture, and that's the barbershop. And that's on both sides. And in the black community, it's a place for so long where black men could go, sit. I mean, they get their hair cut and sit down and spend the day. It's where, said, go to a place where everyone knows my name. They talk politics, they talk about games, they argue, but it is a place. And it's the place where you take your child for their first haircut, like this little boy. He's not happy to be there, but this man that's cutting his hair, you can tell this isn't his first rodeo. But it is for this little boy. But I wanted to show the love that this man was given to him, and the fact that it is a common place, and the starting young, that the barbershop he knows is a safe place for him to come. And I call it Eddie's Barbershop. That's my father's name, Eddie. And he, like all men, went to the barbershop, and they would go and they played checkers. And so I did the flooring to put the connection between those two. That men would come, they stayed, play. My father-in-law would go there, play checkers. He was supposed to be renowned as an outstanding checker player. And people would stand around, after they gotten their haircut, stand around and watch the games. And this is what they did. And that's just, a window, how important the barbershop is in the black community. When they wanted to get people to get the COVID shot, they went and talked to barbershop people. And places where women get their hair done. To get the news of what's happening, you went to get your hair done. So Ms. Panky Reed or whoever's doing your hair would tell you, girl, did you know? And the same thing with men. This is where you found out what was happening to your community. So I always have a lot of respect for the barbershop and what it means to the community. And that's just a little window into that aspect of African American culture. Now, this piece, I love the strength that she portrays, which I think is important, because so often the culture that we're in do not celebrate black women. And this lady, young lady, seemed to have it all together, and to show her life surrounded by beautiful color, I think was a positive thing for her. And I felt that gave some strength to who she is and what she's doing and the possibilities that's out there for her. Now, I'm gonna take you for a stroll. This is my women wall. These are some powerful women. We go from a woman shelling peas to a woman who ran for president. I love the power that each one of these women give in their own way to give me strength to do better at whatever I'm doing. The first is this working woman shelling peas. This is a lot of peas. Take it from me. And when you're shelling these peas, your fingernails get really soft, come all the juice that's in the peas. The thing is, this is a woman with children because she has safety pins on her dress and needle and thread. My grandmother always had a needle and thread, so if you rip something, they sewed it then. It's not gonna take it off and I do it later. No. You take them off so I can do it now. My husband said his mother always had safety pins because he was so tiny that his pants would fall down. So she safety pin him in the back so he could keep doing whatever he's doing. This is a tough woman, because even to sit and to start shelling these peas, I think I would call a bus out of town, because this is a lot of work. But, she seems so calm in what she's doing, assured in what she's doing, and letting you know, I can handle this. And I clap for you. Now we move to someone, I did Ashes to Ashes, and that was a funeral service for African Americans who were lynched. The woman that did the most to document and let the world know about the lynching that was going on in America was Ida B. Wells. She was a journalist, an activist. She was one of the founders for the NAACP, and in doing this painting, I found out that she had done 4 books, and she was noted for these pamphlets that dealt with lynching. She did investigation to prove that the lynchings, they would say that he was lynched because he looked at a white woman, had a relationship with a white woman, and he raped her. She did the statistics to prove that what happened to these individuals was consensual. And she documented, and she was born in Mississippi, but went across the river and was raised in Memphis, Tennessee. She went touring around with her information, and the Klan had planned to kill her. Family member got word to her that don't come back home because the plan is for you to be lynched. She never went back to Memphis, but I understand a statue of her was done within the last 6 months. That statue, she never made it home again. When they had the suffrage march 100 years ago, they did not allow black women to participate. But Ida B. Wells, they say, refused to get to the back of the line. She knew someone in the movement, and she got in the center, and she marched. I told you the woman was tough. She knew what she was going to do, and she didn't let anyone stop her. Shirley Chisholm. I like that first name. Unbelievable. She was the first African American woman to be elected to Congress. She was very strong. She was the first African American to run for presidency on a major ticket. She wasn't fazed by this. Men got this thing where they want to be. She wasn't fazed by that. She had her agenda, and she pushed it. She was outspoken. She was strong. And I love the saying that she's reportedly made, that if there is no seat for you at the table, bring a folding chair. And I like that. They said that showed that she would not be denied, that she would be a part of that table, and she would not, her speech and her expression, her ideas would not be suppressed, which was typical of men. Black men were no exception. But she wanted you to know, you may have to bombard and get in there and bring your own chair and sit at the table and be a part of the conversation. She worked hard to make a difference for people. Nobody would stop her. Supposedly there was a big convention going on when she was running for president. They didn't invite her. They invited the other people. No. That didn't faze her. Her agenda was set. She wasn't fazed by these insecure people. That wasn't part of her agenda. She was working for strength. And I love that idea, because we need people that display that for us so that we can try to do the same thing, that we can have faith in what we're doing and be willing to fight for what we're doing. This one is really no one special other than the fact that she displays savvy, she's strong, and I like that. She doesn't seem to be upset about things, she take charge of things, you know. And you know, these three women are dressed in white because, you know, the suffrage movement was all wearing white when Ida B. Wells was not part of wearing the white. And again, I say they can wear white because they are advocate for making things better, for allowing you to vote and making a difference. So that's why she's here. There's no doubt in your mind, you see this woman, you get the impression she can take care of business. She's strong, looking sharp, stylish, not fazed by a thing. My kind of women. So now I hope that I was successful in giving you a little hint of the black culture, the trials with lynching, that the life of this community, just a peep. And I hope that it made you smile, it made you think, it made you want to do what you can to enrich this culture, which is the American culture.